everyone, and welcome to a co-production of WION and VOA. I'm Susan Tehrani, coming to you live from New York City. All right, let's get you started. A federal judge has set the trial of former U.S. President Donald Trump for next March on charges of plotting to overturn the 2020 presidential election. This puts the historic trial right in the middle of the 2024 presidential campaign, with Trump the frontrunner among Republican candidates. VOA's senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports. Amy Katz narrates.
Lawyers for former President Donald Trump were back in Washington Monday for a hearing that set a March 4th, 2024 date for his trial in conjunction with his alleged effort to stop the peaceful transfer of power at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Trump's lawyers had no comment for VOA, but expressed their disappointment to the judge. They had asked to put off the trial until April 2026, after the November 2024 presidential elections. The prosecution wanted the proceeding to start January 2nd, with jury selection in December. One expert told VOA he believes U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan is a strong judge who made a wise decision.
She made some very good points that the public really needs to know. They need to know one way or the other before this election, whether Trump is guilty of these very serious charges.
A grand jury of citizens in Washington voted to indict Trump on 4 felony counts in the case, including conspiracy to defraud the United States and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges and has repeatedly claimed, without evidence, that the charges are politically motivated.
How can my corrupt political opponent, crooked Joe Biden, put me on trial during an election campaign that I'm winning by a lot, but forcing me nevertheless to spend time and money away from the campaign trail in order to fight bogus, made-up accusations and charges?
Trump has said the indictments are only boosting his support among voters, but one of his Republican opponents, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, disagrees, saying there is no way Trump can win a general election.
Republican voters have to understand we can't win with Donald Trump, and that's why I addressed it very directly.
Many of the January 6th events happened out in the open for everyone to see, presidential historian Alan Lichtman says, leaving Trump vulnerable to a possible conviction ahead of the November 2024 presidential elections.
What if Trump is sitting in jail, which is not impossible either? Technically, he could still run, but would the Republicans really want at the top of their ticket a guy who's been convicted of subverting our democracy?
Trump is the first former American president to face criminal charges. If convicted, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. He is also facing charges in New York, Georgia, and Florida.
VOA's Jessica Stone joins us now with additional analysis. Hi, Jessica. Good to see you. The New Hampshire Attorney General is weighing whether to keep Donald Trump off the ballot for that state's Republican Party primary. There has been developments, however, regarding this announcement. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting legal case being brought about by a Texas attorney who is actually also a candidate for the presidency or for the nomination of the Republican Party, a very long shot candidate, someone who doesn't even make the debate stage. But in any case, he's filed a lawsuit on the grounds of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, arguing that Donald Trump, because of, quote, providing aid or comfort to an insurrection, meaning on January 6th, should be disqualified from running for office and taken off the ballot altogether in New Hampshire. And we know that the state's Attorney General and the Secretary of State of New Hampshire are reviewing that lawsuit. We also know that this Texas attorney plans to take this legal tactic to other states, especially swing states like Pennsylvania and Georgia. This is a case that has been somewhat circulating inside the Republican Party, that there is some grounds to remove Trump from the ballot, but it's not certainly heavily favored by many in the party because he is the front runner by double digits.
Yeah, absolutely. He sure is. And meanwhile, the topic of age is increasingly coming up on the campaign trail, especially for President Joe Biden, even among Democrats and independents. He's 80 now. Donald Trump is 77.
Yeah, the topic comes up repeatedly, and there's been some polling on it released this week. The Associated Press NORC poll releasing saying that 77% of all American voters that they surveyed say that Biden is too old to complete another 4 years, which of course would be a second term. Out of that 77%, 89% are Republicans, but importantly, 69% are Democrats. So that's been, of course, a vulnerability for Joe Biden. And keep in mind, NPR had a report this week, and there's been several other outlets reporting, he is now using a shorter set of stairs to access Air Force One, which gives him two advantages: more time out of the spotlight in case anything happens, any trips like he has before, and it's also much more sturdy in the wind. So that's another indication that they're really working on the optics of the president as a candidate. He has been doing that, according to NPR, since June. And age is definitely being highlighted on the Republican side as well. We saw Vivek Ramaswamy, the Indian-American entrepreneur, highlight age. He is a millennial. He's 38. During the Republican debate, he emphasized the importance of identity to millennial voters, but critics of his say that many of his policy positions are out of step with his generation, and that he may not, as a result, get some of their vote. All of this to say that we're in unprecedented times in terms of the age of people on both sides of the aisle, because keep in mind, before the 2020 election cycle, the oldest presidential candidate was Ronald Reagan. He was 69 when he was inaugurated in 1981, and now we have people well into their 70s and 80s getting inaugurated.
That's right. And who can forget how Ronald Reagan used his age to his benefit during one of those debates? Jessica, stay with us. We're going to talk to you again for our next story. When the Taliban took over control of Kabul, Afghanistan's only unit of female commandos were left with a target on their backs. A group of U.S. military women helped evacuate nearly 40 of those Afghan commandos. Today, as their legal statuses remain in limbo, a group called Command Purpose is using art to help release the trauma of the past while supporting the future. VOA Pentagon correspondent Carla Babb reports.
In the small town of Buda, Texas, these women are creating something new, using pieces from their past.
This transformative process of turning clothing into paper, usually people don't believe it, and so it's this magical process that they get to be part of, and I always say it's kind of like alchemy.
Military uniforms, hats, headscarves, cut up, washed, and pulverized into a pulp. Pulp that's either pressed into paper or used to make these paintings.
It's about releasing that pain. It's about liberating, and through connection, building something beautiful from something that was traumatic.
It's called Project Raha, after the Dari word for release. The Afghans here served in the Afghan National Army's female tactical platoon, deploying with American Special Forces to collect intelligence in areas men couldn't. Some of these women even served together in Afghanistan. That is, until the Taliban took over 2 years ago this month.
That whole evacuation was, it was a mess. I think a lot of us felt really helpless. It felt like something that was so close to our hearts, a culture and people that we loved and cared about. We were watching things just fall apart in a matter of days and hours.
Army veteran Sarah Scully worked with the female tactical platoon from 2019 to 2020. When Kabul fell, she and other military women helped get their Afghan counterparts out of the country. It's a time that's painful for the commandos to talk about.
We lost our dream, we lost our goals, we lost everything. Everything was changed in one day, everything.
After 2 years, almost all of the nearly 40 female commandos who came to the United States remain in legal limbo, stuck in a backlog of asylum applicants.
They're from a country that being a woman in the military was like putting a target on your back, and the fact that some of these women still do not have asylum and some of them still have their futures up in the air, and there's a big question mark of what's next, is an injustice.
Hassani says she wants to know that she and her family will be safe, away from the Taliban's reach. She spent her whole life wanting to be in the Afghan military, a dream the Taliban took away. She now wants to join the U.S. Army, but she can't without a green card.
I know I'm losing the time. If I get older, I couldn't join to army and couldn't follow my childhood dream.
Piece by piece, they place their loss, love, and hope onto canvas. The veteran support group Command Purpose will display their work in a New York art gallery in November to raise money and awareness. Hassani's favorite piece that she created is a tribute to the Afghan army and Afghan flag.
Afghanistan is everything. Afghanistan is my heart.
Trauma transformed. Old made new. One art piece at a time.
VOA's Jessica Stone is still with us. Jessica, this week, the House of Foreign Affairs Committee heard testimony from the families of the 13 U.S. service members killed in that bombing outside Kabul airport 2 years ago. It was absolutely heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to watch. What did we learn, if anything, about what happened during that withdrawal?
Well, we learned that the emotions are still very, very strong for the family members of those 13 fallen service members, and that they want the Biden administration to take more responsibility than they say it has thus far for what they call a botched withdrawal effort. The White House blamed many of the problems in its own after-action report on the Trump administration. The State Department was much more direct, laying more blame on the Biden administration. Interestingly enough, the Pentagon has done its own report, but has remained classified, so we haven't been able to read it yet. Central Command, which is a division of the Pentagon, has done a report, and they indicate that this was a single suicide bomber, was not part of a broader plot. But getting back to the families, in March, they were very taken by committee testimony in front of this same committee from a Marine who says, look, I actually think I identified the suicide bomber. I asked my commanders if I could shoot, and I was basically ignored. He said I didn't hear back from them, and had I gotten orders to shoot, we might not have been in the situation that we then faced. On Tuesdays, family members told Congress that his claims still really haunt them and give them a reason really to question whether they can trust the government about what did in fact happen that day. Susan?
Yeah. Also, the fate of the 80,000 or so Afghans who came to the United States and who are seeking permanent legal status to remain. Any updates on those?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that people, both in the military and journalists like myself that are close to Afghans, are increasingly hearing about. We have seen that the Congress has tried for 2 years to work on legislation, to offer legislation to give a path to citizenship to these 80,000 folks. Their parole basically ends this month, and they have not been able to pass any legislation. So these folks are not going to be able to have work permits. They're not going to be able to have status unless they take the White House up on its only suggestion at this point, which is to re-enroll for parole status and basically remain in limbo in a temporary status until and unless the U.S. government can pass a path to citizenship for them. Interestingly enough, a Republican Senator, Tom Cotton, who's a war veteran himself, is one of those blocking the attempts to make a path to citizenship for these 80,000 people on the grounds of national security. But without legislation, these folks are going to remain in limbo, and many of them are also trying to apply for asylum. That's been a frustrating process. I know I have personal experience with helping a young woman do that. It's really, really challenging because they do want to start their lives over, and they were made promises by the U.S. government to be able to come here and start their lives over after decades of war in that country, which of course the U.S. government worked very closely with many of these Afghans in the Pentagon, in the military effort, as well as in the aid and diplomatic effort. Susan?
Yeah, absolutely. VOA's Jessica Stone joining us on this Friday. Have a great weekend, Jessica, and thank you so much for all of those updates and analysis.
You bet.